Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back or welcome to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am very excited, as always, to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 188. If you missed my last episode, number 187, I chatted with you guys about 10 things to stop feeling guilty for. 10 things that are far too common for us to feel guilty about and to get bogged down on, and things that I think that we can lose perception of how they're affecting our life when we're spending our mentality around feeling guilty about things and the impact that that has on our life every single day. And so if you missed that episode, I definitely encourage you to check it out. For today's episode, first of all, I am so excited. I am back in my regular space, my regular office, my regular camera and light, and just all the things. As much as I enjoy being away from time to time and I enjoyed spending some nights with my partner, there's just something about being back in your space where you have your proper setup and have all the things. And so if you're watching video, you will be able to tell. If you are not and you are listening to audio, you probably won't be able to tell. But I am back home and I'm very excited to be here. Very, very excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all. I am feeling really inspired, and I was working away. I didn't plan on recording for a couple of hours until this evening. And as I was working, I have this trophy in front of me that sits in front of me in my office, which is really what kickstarted the whole theme for today's episode. And so today I want to talk about, what part of you are you hiding? Again, this episode surfaced for me because I have this trophy that used to sit behind me in my view. And it used to sit there as a reminder of all that I had to overcome to get to where I am. And it took me a long time to even put this behind me in my view, because this meant and this caused a lot of pain for me when I was in high school when I won this award. And so as I was sitting there staring at it, it surfaced for me that I used to hide how I viewed myself, a lot of my ambitions, what I thought I was great at. And I'm still very guilty at this of suppressing. And we all have areas of our life that we suppress around certain people. When we're doing certain things, when we feel a certain way, we suppress certain parts of us. And a lot of us are very good at matching the tone of the people that we're around. And so you've heard the saying before, most likely, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And they basically say if 9 of your friends are overweight, you will be the 10th. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but what I mean by that is we often become what we are surrounded by. And if the people around us are acting a certain way, or a certain vibe, a certain frequency, a certain area of their life, we will likely suppress ourselves to that. And it's really important, and my message for today's episode is for you to contemplate and ask yourself, what parts of you are you hiding? What parts of you are you suppressing? Do you have a major part of your identity or yourself that you've been suppressing? And it's easy to blame that on the people around us. But at the end of the day, it is our unique, individualized responsibility to do the necessary things to cultivate and build towards a different life, if that isn't the life that we are striving towards. And so I think today's episode is really, really important, but could also potentially be triggering depending on what that thing is that potentially you've been hiding. And so I want you to know that this is just a conversation and a dialogue that you need to just have with yourself. This is just a conversation for you to have with you, or maybe you have someone you trust that you want to have this with, or a partner, whatever. But know that this is about your relationship with yourself. And when we are hiding parts of us, suppressing parts of us, especially for the approval of other people, we will continue to feel a loss of trust and connectiveness to ourselves. And as someone who for so much of my life downplayed myself, down-talked myself, suppressed my true capabilities, I know what it's like to try to hide certain parts of you because you want to be perceived in a certain way. You don't want to be perceived for your greatness or for something you're really good at, or maybe a certain part of your identity you're afraid to let out because in the past that has caused consequences. So I want you to ask yourself, are you ready to lean into the parts of you that maybe you've been hiding or suppressing or neglecting, or maybe you've let go of altogether, but you're able to get that back? A sentence keeps running in my head as I'm talking to you guys, and it's from the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the first regret is that I didn't live a life true to me. That is I always try to say these words like complimentative, and I'm like, I don't think that's a word. That very nicely compliments, and I will look that up after because then it bothers me when I don't know and I need to find out. That very well complements the theme of what I want to talk about today. What regrets are you potentially leaving on the table by suppressing a part of you that you're curious about? This trophy represents to me the fact that I recognized, fortunately, at a young age, that I was tired of suppressing who Jessie was for the approval of other people. And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination, because that caused me a lot of pain. I lost a lot of people, but I found myself. And that, from my perspective, is the greatest gift that you can give to oneself, is the gift of the acceptance of who you are and your values, not based on the bias and opinions of other people that they have likely transferred onto you from a young age, and that you've learned and wired your brain by such to start to believe. The good news is, like everything I talk about, we can shift this. We can make this better for ourselves. We can improve and lean into uncomfortability in a beautiful way so we don't feel this pressure to hide ourselves anymore. One thing I love about talking to youth these days is they're so expressive and open in who they are, and in some ways just don't really care who's listening or who's in the room. And as much as in some ways yes, we've overswung the pendulum and there's areas that have definitely gone too far, I just think it's so beautiful that youth have this capacity now and this opportunity to be who they are without maybe some of the consequences that I might have gotten from a young age. Consequences meaning judgment, meaning resentment, meaning bullying, or, not being cool enough, whatever it is. And so I just think that it's really cool, and I want to validate that we have come really far with this. But I think it's those of us that are maybe in our 20s, in our 30s, in our 40s, 50s, whatever, that never had that opportunity or that normalization of self-acceptance from a young age. And so we're still holding that belief that we need to hide and suppress certain parts of us. I want to give you that permission today that you do not have to hide those things about you. At the end of the day, it is a choice. And maybe that did serve you at one point in time in your life where that was a protector. You began to form the identity around something because that's what was best for you at that time. Is that serving you at this point in time in your life? There was a part of me when I started doing Young Living and I started doing classes that was very tiptoey about it, and I suppressed it and I kind of hid it, and I protected it, and I just kept hiding this part of me that was super passionate about something. And as soon as I started owning it, I started attracting people into my life that were interested in the same things. But when we suppress and we deny and we dismiss these things for ourselves, we're not allowing ourselves to have a different lens of perception of what our world could look like. We create these boxes for ourselves and we lock ourselves in out of fear. And that's okay. It's important to validate where that comes from. And so, we can shift this. But I do think that the first thing that you must do to shift this is to get honest with yourself. Get honest with yourself of what it is you're hiding. That self-admitting piece is everything. Maybe there's a part of you that's I actually want to be in a same-sex relationship. I actually don't want kids. I actually really don't like my job and I've always wanted to be something else. There's so many areas of categories here of what this could look like. And I could never touch on all of them, but that is not what I'm here to do. I'm here to just highlight the importance of figuring out what that is for you and to self-accept that for yourself. If you've been suppressing it, you've been suppressing it for a reason. There's a part of you that's formed this resistance to it. Until you get comfortable with that in your own skin, it's going to be really hard to demonstrate that and to put that outwards to the external world. Self-accept the areas of your life that you've maybe been suppressing. And then one step further, I encourage you to ask yourself, what is the source of this? Where does this come from? Where did this start for me? Why am I having these thoughts? Everything, belief, value, bias, opinion, whatever that we have because of life experiences that we've gone through, things we've witnessed, things we've heard, things we've read, things we've learned. Everything is a learned behavior. And so getting to know the cause and the source of why you're suppressing something in your life is a huge step. Because when you can pinpoint it, it gives it less power. When you can identify that is why I'm fearful of expressing my truth, I'm fearful to go for what I want, I'm fearful of coming out, I am fearful of whatever, insert thing here. There's a reason beneath it. And there's likely pain there. Because that's why we build these protective parts of us in the first place. If you're hiding a part of you, again, I can't reiterate this enough, it's because there's pain there and there's a part of you that doesn't want to feel that pain. Even if you don't remember that consciously, which is why going in and doing that internal work is so damn important. It's very easy for life to pass by and us not even recognize that we're suppressing certain parts of us. Everything that I preach and I talk about is around that reflective work. When I sit down with my journal and something's come up for me or I'm upset about something or triggered about something, I'm always reflecting of why. Why is that bothering me? When's the last time I remembered feeling this way? When's the first time I remember feeling this way? When we can start to build those relationships with ourselves and connect those dots, it allows us to have a little more compassion in a story and an understanding for ourselves of why things are the way that they are. Why to me is one of the most powerful words in the whole wide world because it gives us reasoning. Reasoning is our brain's best friend. Uncertainty, unsureness, a blank canvas, our brain's like, what do I do with this? What do I do? Whereas when we have actual factual reasonings and validation for ourselves, it just helps our brain to process a little more. It also allows us to give ourselves some self-compassion. The next thing that I would encourage you to do once you've self-admitted to yourself, you've tried to figure out where this comes from and you sit with that, and maybe just that takes you a while. Maybe that in and of itself takes you a year to do. That is okay. This is not a sprint. This is something that is a lifelong journey. And I would rather you start today and become curious in this consume your consciousness for the next 10 years than to wish you had done something differently. And so the third thing is to ask yourself if you'll regret living for others. Will you regret toning down your true potential at the expense of other people? If you've pitched a business idea and someone told you that it's really dumb, and so you believe them and you listen to them, and now you're not going after that dream business, guess what? Now you'll never know. If someone's told you you shouldn't do something, you shouldn't travel, you shouldn't whatever. But there's a part of you intuitively that knows that that's what you want to do. You need to listen to your heart. You need to listen to what it's telling you. We contradict these conversations that we have with ourselves because we think externally first. How will I be perceived by others? Will I lose that relationship if I contradict what they tell me? What if their opinion from their perception to you is what's going to serve their life? It isn't what's going to serve yours. And if you spend your whole life in the truth of somebody else, you are stepping away what could be a magnificent life. So I encourage you, as much as it's a hard thing to ask, will you regret living your life from the lens and from the belief and from the opinions of those in your life? Off of that, if the people in your life you feel you have to hide a part of yourself around, as much as, again, this is easier said than done, I would encourage you to ask yourself if they are the right people to have in your life. When I had certain friends that told me starting a podcast was kind of silly, starting my business I was never gonna become anything. Partners that used to tell me, similar things. If I had listened to them, I wouldn't be here now. It is easy to think that other people know what's best for you, especially if your self-worth is lower. The right people, the healthy relationships will not pose their opinion onto you unless they are ahead of you in said area. Nor should we listen to the opinions of others unless they are ahead of us in an area. It's okay to go to your friend and ask them their opinion on something, but don't let that be the tell-all of your final decision. We need to be able to think critically for ourselves, from our own perception, based on our own experiences, based on our own intuition of our future, of what we want that to look like. As much as your friend might be great, they don't know what your future entails. And neither do you. But you know more intuitively what's in alignment for you than they do. And so if those people in your life you feel are, in a way, subconsciously or consciously suppressing you from being the person you want to be, doing the things you want to do, going after and chasing your dreams, I say this with love, get them out of your life as fast as possible. I know that it's scary. I know that it's lonely. It is far more worth it to be lonely, chasing your dreams, than it is to be surrounded by people that make you feel lonely and that don't encourage you and don't lift you up and don't let you be your true, organic, beautiful self. The right people will cheer you on. I can promise you that. And then the last thing that you can do with all of this stacked on top is just take a 1% action. What is one small thing that you can do? Maybe it's journaling every day and building that relationship with yourself. Maybe if it's, finding aligned people, maybe you find a local community, event that's hosting something that's in alignment for you, and you go and you have conversations with people. Maybe you go on social media and you type in a certain hashtag and you start engaging with folks in the same interests. Whatever it is, start small and build. You do not have to jump from one extreme to another. In fact, you shouldn't, because it's going to be really overwhelming. But my love, listening, there are parts of you that you are hiding, you are suppressing, and you are tuning down for the approval and happiness of other people. And I'm here to tell you that, yes, there is a right place and a right time sometimes to be a certain version of ourselves. But if you feel holistically like you are minimizing and stepping away from your true essence, you're always going to feel like something's missing. There will likely always feel sadness around you because you're not living a life that's in alignment, that's serving you. And the only way that we can get out of that is to start doing the things that we've been hiding and running away from. That was one of the main things that I worked on with my clients. I'd get them to paint me a dream life. If you could live any life, what would that look like? And then when I would compare the life they're living now and that life and what the reasoning is, almost always because there's a part of them that they were suppressing or they were running away from or they didn't want to admit to themselves to get there. That's why I say to start small. 1%, set a small goal, do a small task, do a small conversation. Getting out of your comfort zone and building that resiliency and showing yourself that it is safe to come out from hiding. Because those parts of you that you're hiding are probably the most beautiful parts about you that make you you, and you deserve to let that radiate, let that echo out into the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Happiest of Thursdays. I cannot believe when this episode comes out, it's going to be December 21st. So that means, let me look at my calendar. I will not talk to you guys again until Boxing Day. And so if you celebrate Christmas, I'm wishing you the most magical Christmas. If you don't, warmest wishes anyway. Happy holidays. I hope that no matter what, you just get to spend some time with friends and family, and that you just feel special and loved during this holiday season. And if nobody tells you this holiday season, I am so thankful for you. You make this world a better place, and the world is so lucky to have you in it. And I'm so proud of you for overcoming another year, and just I hope you're as excited as I am for 2024. Let's kickstart it off to a great start, and I'm just so thankful for each and every one of you for making everything this year possible. And so I'm very excited to chat with you all next week about some content likely around goals, which is always my favorite topic to talk about. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I look forward to chatting with you all next week. Bye, you guys.